చాలా అయిపోయింది
Good afternoon, all of you. So now let us continue from the part of deleting the list. So in ReactJS, what happens is in ReactJS, what happens is each one which you handle is an event, and the target which you set is also for an event. And every event has its own action. It can be on-click event, or it can be like page move on event, whatever it is. These events are already described in your functions, which can be a mouse event or keyboard event and any event. So now what happened exactly here is we were trying to directly delete the object, but we have to understand that there is an array created in between. So in order to delete that, you have to delete the state and plus use the splice operator to delete all the elements in the first object. That is in the index 1. Like each index, you can calculate and you can delete accordingly whenever there is a click event. Now what we have done is exactly, last time we were trying to use it similar to submit button, but instead of that, what we have to do is we have to write the event. So here it is on click, it has to delete. So what we will do is we write everything on click. Just a second. Yes, here it is. So now what I have did is on click, I'm passing my data. Now this will send me an empty array so that you in the position you can see the object is sliced with the help of the slice operator. Okay. So this state.product.list, what happens is I'm slicing it as per the index, and then I write my own set state as we did for adding the item. And this will also accept the argument this.state.list which is present. So it itself has its index to be. Now if you see, when I add something here, it gets added. And when I add the event also, it gets added because I have written on click. And when I remove also, it is on click, so it easily gets removed. Let me refresh this. All right. So let us add. And what we observe is we are able to remove it on click of the event. And apart from that, if I get into my console, I have right clicked and I have selected inspect in order to check with the console. And here also we are provided with the console. You can check for the each time how it is slicing here. Let me reload here. You can directly check this console here, so need not go to. It's not clearing the console. Suppose if I add something, I've written console only for delete, not for add. So let me check here. Once I try to delete this, you can observe the value being update.
మీకేమైనా వచ్చినాయా
Now,
జాయినింగ్ రిపోర్ట్స్
For something like this,
ప్రింట్ పేపర్
so
అప్లికేషన్
there are two items. So when I delete, you can find the index being updated. So this way it will fetch the index value and it will update, delete the last added.
నెంబర్
first.
ఎంత చూస్తే
591.
So now this part is clear. On click this dot delete dot index in your declarative UI.
ముగ్గురు ఒకటే కంపెనీలో ప్లేస్ అయినారా
Pass it as an
డిఫరెంట్
value.
ఎంత పని చేసినారు అసలు.
Then
Common
how you
DX.
render is
DX
అర్థం కాదా
మధ్యలో DX ఇలా వచ్చింది.
Indira madam, please
Indian
mute
medical
your
house.
mic.
మీకేం
checkbox
వచ్చింది ఏ
is to
కంపెనీ
implement
మెడికల్
the same only, but it is to select and then
ఆర్డర్ లో పెట్టినట్లేవు
particular index value. That particular index is
3-2 లోనా ఇది బ్యాక్ లాగ్ పడింది
passed over this function. Once it is passed inside this, you can see how it slides the last value, because the last value will only be fetched. The last data is deleted, and then it processes the list again with the set state, and finally it is deleted. So I hope this part is clear. Now what we will do is we will quickly have a glance of Redux entirely, and
Madam, what happened? Madam? Madam, your mic is mute, madam. Madam, your mic is mute. Madam, your mic is in mute.
thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay. So React is a JavaScript library. We all focus on UI, not the framework. And there is only one way reactive data flow. When we implement Flux architecture with the help of Redux, we are able to do unidirectional one-way data rendering. The virtual DOM is the important concept which will keep track of state in the DOM, and the DOM API is the very first thing it will take you to the changes to be rendered. If you see here, there is a model, there is a render, and there is your DOM. This is the tree structure. Like already I told you, the exact term is tree conciliation. So that is the exact term. And if you observe, as we have seen already, when there is a change, we name that as an atom. And if the same thing is being changed in other places, we name it as molecule. So the difference is being computed, and you set your dispatcher, and that particular DOM is only being updated, not the entire tree structure. There is a very big logic behind this working principle also. But now, for now, let us proceed understanding the basics. And the batch read-write operation or efficient updation of the tree only. Like as already we have seen the diagrammatic representation, only the particular difference is considered, and that is dispatched. And here the architecture actually is being coming into the place. Then your DOM is being updated according to architecture. If you are implementing without Redux, then it is your MVC architecture. And when you are implementing Redux, it is your Flux architecture. a first experiment of this, if you have remembered, like how you write your renderer. Okay, when you go through your React DOM.render, you can include all your HTML tag over there. And of course, you can create your own constants and stateful or stateless, whichever manner, and then pass them also. Yesterday, we must have gone through JSX. JSX is nothing but an approach for your declarative UI with the help of coding which is similar to HTML and XML both. And the extension looks similar, exactly like XML itself. So now if you observe, whenever I write within my tags, and that is exactly like XML. You can see the input which I give, and when I want to check the output create element nav color returns blue. So rendering a component, in order to render a component, we have seen yesterday how we are making use of arrow function and how we are declaring a component name and what are the ways to make it state and stateless. And then the same way you render by returning the whatever JSX you have to present in your view. So here we have p tag hello world, that is the return. You can check how there are different ways to render a component. Nested components also. Within a component, you can again you create your own state and then present. Here you have your profile and inside that you have your avatar. And that avatar you can represent it and the name also you can take from it. And then if you observe here, what happens is we are trying to import something called profile, and here this is the profile, the same thing. When you import it, when you start using it in this manner, your app.js. Now stateless functional components, you remember they avoid changing state and avoid mutable data. So that's why it is named as stateless. And when we come to something, why it is not easy to understand and how far it is easy to predictable, that is because of the like the concept state, because of this concept state. I think all the slides are getting cut in the end. So just give me one moment. All right. All right. Okay. Now this will be clear. So whenever there is an interaction on mouse over or on submit or on click on any keyboard changes, you can write its event, and Redux is the one possible and easiest way to help you on all the state management, and of course minimal API because it converts your entire data to JSON itself. And about Flux, So Flux we have already seen how it helps in all the unidirectional way, apart from like there are this Flux was already an architecture, but now we have Flux module also. So this is something which will help in Redux also. The basic principle is initially we start from an action. In your declarative UI, you have a button click or a mouse over or whatever it is, that is an action. And that is inside this, the previous state and action is sent and combinedly worked upon. So if you see here, slide is cutting away, I don't know the reason. So if you see, observe here, there is a route from where you have to come to your action, and then you store and you have your reducers to create your new state, and finally you render your state which has to be rendered into your declarative UI. So always we have to remember only one thing: wherever you write an action, you should write a dispatch function, and whenever you write a store, it is with the help of providers present in the Redux, where you have your previous state and as well as action, and then you write reducers where we are actually creating the new state, and finally you return that. And of course there is a callback in the store, so that's why you can see this double-sided arrow. This callback will help you to function with the current new state. So this is how you create your action, constant action, and inside that you write whatever action of your declarative UI is, whether it is type or whether it is text or whatever it is, or on click or mouse over, etc. And then you create your action with the help of your functional components, and you can return them whatever action it has to return. If you observe, the same you are trying to return here, your type and text. And reducers, as we have created our action, now we can write our reducer. If you remember, in the product list coding, we have written for add and delete product. The product return coding, we have written this for add product and as well as a case to delete the product. Now in this PPT, it is written for add to do, and the same state has been written. Here you have to write the logic to add the to-do list also. And finally, you have to return the action. Action is itself also passed here. So remember that state and action combinedly comes in reducer. Now once it accepts, the final part is to create your store. You can create your store in this manner with the subscribe and as well as with the help of providers. And create store is taken from Redux itself, and reducers, whichever you want to name, you should take from reducers package. So here it is named to do reducer. Here it is named to do reducer, and this should be taken from your reducer whichever you have implemented. And then you can create your store variable from your create store and pass the reducer inside. Now when you subscribe, you will get the state. You can get the state, and when you want to manipulate, you have to set the state. That is, whenever I delete or add, I do some operations on it. So I set the state for them, which we will see further. Now, connect your React with your Redux. This is the important step. So you, as usual, import your React and then your React DOM and whatever else you want. And now here the part is your create store and your provider and your reducer. And then finally the container for which you are going to implement this. So directly here we are implementing for app. So we take app here. And this is the way you have to declare your create store. Now, if you observe, what happens here is you can, I'll show you like this itself so that the code doesn't miss. So here, if you see, now we are getting this DOM being rendered for our provider itself, and the provider will take the store. Okay, the interpolation is happening here. That means the binding is one-way binding is actually happening here, and then it gets implemented. Next, what we have is connect. Okay, so now we use connect from React Redux, and then we try to dispatch it. So this is the initial step where you trigger your action. So if you observe, whenever I write dispatch, I write them on click or whatever action I have to do. Inside them only I write them. And then I call my add to do. Where we have declared this add to do? Yes, inside our action. And we have an action creator to send also. So then we do this operation. And finally, we export this connect so that we can use it wherever it's necessary. So Redux allows you to manage the state with predictable behavior because you know it is unidirectional and you can tell for what action what is the particular output. And then next, so this already we have seen reusable components and predictable code and time to travel and lightweight too. Yes, of course, lightweight because there are no many hedges of states, and what you are processing is completely your JSON, and even you can use the smallest operation like slice and all. So you are very clear how to add particular list and how to delete particular list. So Redux is used by Firefox, Docker, and technical universities, and many more. And Redux is followed by Flux. So by default, if you are using Redux, means you are following Flux architecture. So that's it about Redux. And anyone is having any doubt in actions or dispatches or reducers, or if you got confused with the state management and all, or anything else to ask, we can go with. So everyone understood what is a Flux architecture and how we are implementing that using the Redux module? Yes. For once, you have to write your own state and implement that. At that time, you can understand what is the difference between writing or declaring a state normally and what is the difference between declaring a state with its action and reducers. That is implementing Redux. Is it clear? Can we move to the snake program which is present? Try to implement it. Or if you want to ask me anything. Okay. I have one exercise for you all. Please participants try to do this. I will give you a hint also. So the exercise is, as we have seen route paths, right? So in that route paths, if there is a component, that is a page, which is our component, and if I have defined my path correctly, it is able to render me. That is, I am able to view that component. So suppose I request some page which is not at all present. Okay. Let us try this also. I will share my screen. Just give me 1 second. Just give me 2 seconds. It's loading. Just let us check with what's actually happening. So now we are clear understanding the unidirectional data flow in the React is possible with the help of Redux state management and understanding the Flux data architecture, and we are clear with working of Redux also. Redux data binding exactly. So please do not use delete property. Please delete it with the help of slice and slice the last index which you have entered so that we can pass the event itself. I just want to give you one this is very simple also. So you have to do the assignment on when there is no page existing, what is the message the application has to give. Usually we see page not found, right? Or oops, the page is not existing, something like that. In that component, you can include images also, which show that the page or the thing is not found, or some oops like. Okay? And then, but the thing which I am expecting is, let me know how you can achieve and in what manner you have to write the route in order to achieve that. That's the thing actually. Now let us suppose something like this. If we enter there is an hash and it shows everything in this. The book detail, the book ID and all. If same, okay. If I try to do something like this, the path is not present. Still I am trying to access it. So what will happen? If I write something like this, okay, so that's an error. The requested URL user was not found on this server. And this is the thing which we have to achieve. So please try to achieve this. And the logic is either there shouldn't be any path or either there shouldn't be any component in order to achieve this. And the page which appears here is to be designed by us itself. So you have to declare one component for page error. And then you have to try to render that whenever there is an irrelevant URL. I hope it is easy and everyone will achieve that. Now let us move to dragon snake problem. And just give me some time to load the problem. So everyone can have Visual Studio Code. It's very easy to manage everything in one view, that is one window. Like you have your file structure here, and then you have your working part, whatever code you are writing, and you can open multiple windows to view the code. And whenever there is an usage to merge it, your code into JIT or something, then you have a split window view also. And in the bottom, you can see there is a terminal which will help me to run the code also. Of course, to build and run both. I'm trying to open the folder for snake. Why? I will fastly explain this and pass this code to everyone so that you all can try in your own environments. Of course, errors may arise due to improper packages and all. In order to solve the basic package problem, you can follow npm start. If that doesn't work, putting in the chat. Npm start. And rarely go with npm update or delete your node modules directly from the folder or use npm clean, and then you can again start. This manner you can achieve. Now, next what happens is we have this snake program. I think it's taking some time to load. Let's organize. Now what we are trying to do is we're trying to develop different environments into this, and for every movement of the snake game you have to write its functionality, like 1 pixel or 1 scale of unit, in what manner we have to create that. So for each thing, there is a library already available for the movements. If you observe here, this is the library snake.js. So this is already available, and yeah, if you see all the functions, all the event triggers has been already written to how much percentage of the width there should be a movement, and how do you get the game board, and how you can init your game, and depending upon what the highest is calculated, you can see the all the calculations have been written here, and for each variation you try to push the calculation. Okay, and then finally you have set, and apart from that, the pass is to move the snakes, try to eat the snakes, and try to eat whatever other things are present apart from that. Like here it is apple given. There in few games you have a like sign also. So in that manner, and what are the different conditions for the colors being changed when the snake moves from right to left? When it is hit by the target, it has to die, and it should change it to some red or something like that. So all these states have been already defined in your snake.js library. So now what we are going to do is efficiently use this library. So you can see how it goes up is given, goes right is defined, go down is also defined, and what it has to render finally is also being decided. And then each of the game board changes are passed with the help of hash. If you observe, it is passed with the help of hash. And hash is the term we have seen in the morning to get the exact fetch of the URL without any irrelevant information in the state. Finally, there are chances where you have to append and remove something, and that depends on first child or the n number of childs which are being generated. So this is the way you have to define all things and include all these into your library. Now, the fantastic thing about this library is free to edit. If you are interested to add something new, or if you are interested to do something new, you can do inside this. Okay. Now, let me show the default library present. A moment. Just give me 2 moments. I'm sorry. Okay. Let us see the default snake game package already available, and how we are trying to write our own states for it and trying to implement the game on the game board. Is the actual task. So whenever you try to click on something, the event triggers at once, and the request is passed, whether it is a system application or whether it is a Windows application, whatever way it is. Okay, there are network issues, so now let me share. The snake game snake.js, you can directly check with this. Now we will go through 2-3 ways to accomplish this library, how we have to fetch the functionalities of this library and use it in our coding, and whatever functionality you have to achieve or you have plans to achieve, you can check with what are the functionalities available, and accordingly you can fetch them and write your new game in any manner, the way you are comfortable with. Yes, but of course we have to follow the rules of the snake game. There are few basic rules which we can't avoid. Yeah, of course you can add the other rules also. It's taking a long time to load. I am extremely sorry. the first and foremost thing which we have to do in order to build this game is to understand what are the functions written in the this .js file, snake.js file. Sorry, here there is no library. Anyways, this is taking too long. But if you search for that, what will happen is you can check for each functionality individually instead in this manner. Now, let us go to our functionality. Now, this is the package of the snake game, which is also included in this project. And this code will be shared so that every participant can implement them and even update the game also in a more interactive manner. Hello. So now you can see this entire here we have utilized our already present library only, and we try to check what I am returning in the final render is this part. Correct. So now you have snake, and then you have pause the game, and then arrow and the direction, and then unpause, and this is the snake container. So this manner, you call your class name, and you display your necessary components in the grid. So if we observe the display row as a state property to map you to the different rows and to the different values and as well as the different renders. You can see here inside your div, you have been given different renders depending upon the values which you are fetching. Okay, I will explain you what this I and $J are also. For now, just remember this. So now, okay. So in order to achieve the functionalities of this, we have written all this. If you observe, I have taken the height and width of equal. You can take different width, but when you take different width, you should calculate your left, right, up, down, and stop with respective values. And there are differences. If you observe, they are incrementing differences. And finally, whenever you want to stop, you should give some space. So that is why it is given 32. You can go with different values also, but again, that also depends on the height and width which you have taken. And then next what we have to do is, in your initial state, you have to define your rows, and then you have to define your how the snake has to generate its body, and what are all the food has to appear in the game, in what frequency, and the direction to stop, and of course the speed of the snake movement. So all these you have to put in your initial state. Now I take here one state and as well as one super, so that I can use whichever left, right, and height, width, and as well as the one more thing is there. Yeah, here you go. the move snake. This is the important thing. So this, you can say this is the actual game functionality where you are playing. Okay. So here what happens is there is a snake copy, and that you can fetch from your snake whichever you have defined already. Okay. We will do this manner. Okay. So now when you pass this onto your movement of the snake, okay, so there are separating head from that, and this is just the slice of what is happening, and the length -1 will take one piece of the pixel whichever you have defined, that is the height and width you have defined, and that will be rendered in the head. All right. Now this switch is similar which we usually write, and now we are writing for our direction. If it is left, what has to happen in that case? Okay, so whatever the position is there, from there you are subtracting 1 unit for left and for up, and when it is right you are trying to add 1 unit, and when it is down also you are trying to add 1 unit. That is a depending upon the snake movement. If you remember the game, you can imagine for a while, then we will see the output also. Now the next thing I have to do is keep the value within the range of the height and width I have given. Otherwise, it will come out of the frame. So for that, we have written the formula in this manner. So how you can do is, you can analyze the remaining space and then allocate it to the remaining whatever height or width you want to implement upon. And of course, you have to also be proportional with the game board. That is the entire game where the snake has to move. Now you try to push the snake copy which has been created, and you have your head passing into it. So all your movements have been calculated in this. And then once you set the state for the snake copy along with its head. So this is each time being updated. Now let us see in update what is happening. If you observe, so you let in new rows and then you make them empty and then assign it to the new element whichever you are naming it, and again you take the properties, transfer them to snake itself, which is being already defined here. Yes. Next part we did is foot is also one of the properties we have taken. And now what we are trying to do is in all these new rows, you are trying to implement this depending upon the X and Y positions defined. Depending upon the X and Y position defined. Because whenever there is a head for certain frequency of time, you have to put the foot in between so that the snake will eat and then get out of the danger. So now here also you set your state. So for every row action, we are trying to set the state. So this is also updated in your row itself. Now, that part is completed. Now next what you have to do is, you have to take care of this change direction. Again, this is calculated with the variables we have already taken, left, right, and down, up. Okay. So we keep this change direction depending upon whatever key code has been inserted, and we set a different state for this as direction. So we are finally going to use the snake copy, the direction, and as well as the collapsed and is eaten along with it. Let me show you where we have to go next is eaten. Here it is present. Sorry. So this is eaten. Now, once there is food appearing, it has to do an action. For that, I have defined my own state, and we have again to do the props with your snake copy and as well as head, and let the food here. Here the food actual part enters, and for that you have to set XY values. Depending upon that, you are trying to again take the copy of your snake moment. Okay, again you pass your relative head here, and finally you set your snake copy. Here you don't not only set the snake copy, but also you set your foot and the random speed it has to increase, because whenever there is a prey, you have to go in certain more speed and grasp it. So that is also given. And once you enter into the actual part of the game, for every bonus, the speed of the snake increases. So that part has to be calculated. So this is clear. All these functionalities of a game we have written ourselves. And now what we will do is, this is the did mount and this is the did update. Both of them are necessary. Once you start your game, you have to give the snake. Okay, so the snake move has been introduced.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Sanjay, tell me.
So again, there is a power issue
Okay.
from the speaker end.
Hmm.
So that's all with respect to all the functions which Madam discussed. And here is what we are going to conclude for the day. And the same functions and the complete code and application, the assignments will be shared shortly in the WhatsApp group. And Madam has just asked me to convey that everyone can practice with the same. And in case of any queries, you can reply to our email also. We'll be sharing an email ID in the WhatsApp group. So that's all from the day. Thank you, everyone.
Sanjay,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Actually, there was a speaker coming tomorrow morning here.
Okay.
Afternoon, madam is having session. So morning session of madam should
Okay,
be
sir.
to afternoon.
Morning.
Morning speaker is coming.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So we should convey that message to all the participants.
Okay, sir. I'll meet you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.